Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ami Sanogo, and today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026.
Perfect. All right, Ami, so I'm so happy to be sitting with you today for this interview. I'm going to go over a couple questions. They're kind of sectioned off. So we're going to start with some personal questions or biographical questions. So what is your full name?
Naminata Sanogo, but it's for short Ami, so most people in this community know me by Ami.
All right, and where and when were you born?
I was born in Harlem, New York in 1994.
Can you describe where you were raised, your home and community?
I would say I was raised in Detroit. My family moved here when I was the age of 5, going on 6. And I've been in Detroit up until about 2022, so over 2 decades.
All right, and then what is your connection to Brightmoor? Do you live there, do you work there, or do you socialize there?
My connection to Brightmoor is that I would say I mainly socialize there. I am within 5 minutes of the Brightmoor community. However, I don't reside there. The only time that I would be in Brightmoor is the weekly Friday Juma prayer and Eid holidays or Islamic celebrations or any community gatherings that Masjid As-Salaam has.
All right, and then what is the story of how your family got to Detroit?
Well, it's a very interesting story, actually. And to think that I've been in Detroit for so long and I learned this story less than 5 years ago is crazy. So, my dad has a best friend here. He's a Gambian man. He goes by Mamadou Young. He actually came to get his car fixed in New York. Mind you, he was on like a vacation in New York and he went to my dad's garage in Bronx, New York. And he met my dad and, my dad was fixing up his car. And then, he told my dad like, hey, I'm headed back to my state. And my dad, out of curiosity, asked him where he lived. And, he let my dad know, hey, I live in Detroit. It's a up-and-coming city. And I think you should actually come visit me. You'll probably like it. And out of nowhere, my dad thought about it. Hey, I got a growing family. I should, take him up on that offer and go visit Detroit. My dad moved here. Well, he actually came to visit here first. He liked what he saw. He went house shopping, found the perfect house. And then before we knew it, we were in Detroit.
Oh, wow. That's actually interesting. I didn't know like Gambians and stuff were here first, like and established like that. Okay, so what was that, if you remember, because you were pretty young at the time, what was that journey like for you and your family to kind of get adjusted to Detroit after leaving New York?
Even though I was really young, I have like a vague memory of like us moving here. I remember us being in a U-Haul. I remember Tonto Bamba, he's also a community pillar. He was actually driving to Detroit with us, so I do remember that part. Coming to Detroit, I just remember we were in an apartment building, and then me and my brother were like really close, so we were outside one day just playing, and then we saw kids outside just like us, same age group, speaking the same language as us, and then next thing you know, the next day we go outside, we see more kids that speak the exact same language as us, and then from there, like we would just go out and play in the backyard. And that apartment actually is still up and running today because I feel like most of my childhood has kind of vanished, but that apartment is still up and running. It's actually on 8 Mile and Lasser, and that's where most of this community is actually, stomping grounds we're at.
Okay. And then how do you feel like the existing community, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but other immigrants, Detroiters, or neighbors help you adjust to Detroit and feel kind of welcomed?
I would say mainly just being around people that were like me, growing up with kids that, spoke the same language as me, went to the same school as me, we ate the same foods. And then growing up like in school, obviously was kind of hard. Back in the day, like, just being African or, just having foreign parents was already hard enough. So just having to, just decompress when you come home from a long day of school and be around people that are like you and understand you. So I feel like just that likeness of being united as, mainly Ivorian and Malian, I feel like that made the adjustment a lot easier.
Okay, and then what are some places or spaces that are most meaningful for you in Detroit, and where do you feel the most connected?
It's a tough one. I mean, outside of the masjid, I would say I could always go back to my high school Ali Class Training Academy and, always be welcomed with open arms, see people that I haven't seen in a long time, just, like that sense of just welcome back home. Like there's always a sense of belonging there. And then just our journey of even just going to Ali Class and, it was just us and another family that went there. And then to just see today that how much of this community is just like so impacted by that one, space is like really awesome. So outside of our masjid, because of course, just being close within the community and being around people that you grew up with, Ali Class would definitely be a second favorite that I would say I'm really connected with.
Mm-hmm. And then now I'm going to touch on a couple questions about faith, community, and support networks. So how did you first connect with the Islamic Community of As-Salaam or other community organizations? I know it's probably your parents, but just from your memory, how do you feel like that connection came to be?
Interesting enough, this community actually was very small. And when I say small, extremely small, because that apartment that I had spoke about earlier, our apartment is where the women prayed before we even had a masjid. And then one of our other cousins or uncles lived right under us, and that's where the men prayed. And surprisingly enough, to just say that, hey, we're like a community of people that know each other, we understand each other, we're from the same background, we're from the same culture, let's build a masjid. So like, of course it was hard because, you got to think about it. So it's like 1999, early 2000s. Most of our aunts and uncles were just now either migrating from West Africa or just coming from New York and transitioning into this community. So it was quite a few of us, but not enough to say, hey, let's all work together to have this building right away. So again, the masjid actually started in 2 apartments, one upstairs, one downstairs, one for the women, one for the men. And then after that, a couple years went by, maybe less than 5, they bought a building on 7 Mile. And then that was something that wasn't theirs to, where they could own it or say like there was a sense of ownership. So after a couple years, come fast forward, end of 2008 going into 2009, we got our building Community of As-Salaam in the Brightmoor neighborhood. So I just feel like the grassroots of this community just building the way it was is like just a story that I just hold near and dear to my heart, because it's like I was there. Like even though it was in the beginning stages, I was there from point A to point Z.
I like that you touched on that. Do you remember kind of what it was like for your parents, like the dedication that you saw from like your perspective, being like, oh, we got to make sure we get this mosque for our children or our community, like the urgency when it came to getting the building to Brightmoor and establishing that space for them?
A little bit. Like I my memory on that part is a little vague because again, started in our house, and then once they did get the building, I just remember like in our when we moved from those apartment buildings, we moved to a house like shortly after. And I just remember the men coming to our house every Sunday to have a meeting. And around that time, my dad was like the president of the community. So it's like just, seeing them just come together every Sunday. They could be anywhere in the world, but they chose to come together and figure out how can we make this community stronger? How can we make this better? Sometimes I value my Sundays, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I think like, wow, would I have had that dedication back in the day, like just to give up my Sunday to come together and meet for hours on end to talk about how we can better the community?
I feel like so far I've been hearing a lot of like choosing, like they chose Detroit, they chose to sacrifice their weekends to build this community. How do you feel like those choices kind of impacted you when it comes to like community groups, cultural associations, or other religious organizations that you're involved in, that you choose or that your parents chose while you were growing up? I don't know if that makes sense. Did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. People like to say I'm obsessed with my dad. Like, I do like to follow in my dad's footsteps. Like, even growing up, just following him, just having the love to just go to the masjid or going to Juma every Friday. It's like, he could be doing anything with his spare time. Like, he works for himself. He could do anything he wants to do in his spare time, but he chooses to be in the community, be active, be involved, have his say so, or like, just put his input. I think this works. I think this doesn't work. Not afraid to speak up when things aren't working or things are being an inconvenience. Just having that motivation to just do that. And, it's like, and also stand up for himself, like, just in case, okay, I have this bright idea, but what if the community doesn't like it? That never stopped him. So just seeing that, it's like, I want to be like that guy when I grow up. And sure enough, it's like, okay, I started seeing that, and it's just like, okay, I could be doing other things with my, free time, but I do try to, take the time to at least sacrifice a little bit of time to do something or be involved. Or if there is something that the masjid needs help with, if I'm free, I'll do it rather than just going out with my friends. So it's just like, just seeing my dad do it, it kind of made me want to like mimic his footsteps and also do that and just make sure that the community's roots are actually preserved.
Okay, and I guess on the topic of preserving like the community roots, a lot of the time our community, like, or I would say it sounds like the community is like there to support each other and kind of provide what's needed when necessary. So how do you feel like your community supported one another while you were growing up, or even now over the years, whether that's emotionally, spiritually, or financially?
I think support is like without a doubt. Like, you come to them with something, the community is going to join forces and help you. Like, you could be going through the most dire situation. The community will find a way or will find resources to help you. So I don't think anyone that has come to our community has left like, empty-handed or turned away or like there's like no help at all. If the community can do it, they will do it. Even seeing our moms like growing up, how they would have their meetings too, and then they will always like, chip in. I don't know if it was like a small fee every week that they went to the meeting. So just in case of that rainy day, that those funds are already there, ready and available to assist someone. So I think the support is definitely there.
I like that you touched on remembering, the moms meeting and stuff and what that looked like. I know for me, that was a big part of my childhood. Like, remember those Sunday meetings and stuff like that. How do you feel like that kind of played into how you view the community or how you view community within like your friends or just interacting with other women and stuff from that perspective?
I think it's important to actually check in or have those meetings. I'm not sure what their community, like, their meetings consisted of. Not really sure. It was like, hey, we know our mom's having a meeting. We always wanted to just hang out. So it was like, I'm following my mom to the meeting because sure enough, I'm going to see my cousins. But I'm not really sure what their meetings consist of. So I can't really touch on that. But however, just the fact that they chose to meet up because our moms also are busy. And 90% of our moms actually were their own, self entrepreneurs. So they worked for themselves. They braided at hair shops. So they had the time. But again, with their free time, they could be at home cooking. They could be doing laundry. They could be helping us with homework. Just doing things that, they could be doing, everyday roles. But they took out that specific time to make sure, hey, I'm going to show up for my community. So that in itself, it resonates with me because I can do that with my friends. Hey, we haven't seen each other in a while. Let's plan a meetup. And, sometimes we'll just go out to eat, just check in with one another, just make sure everyone's mental is good. And, of course, if it's not, find ways to support each other.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like you answered my questions before I asked them. So great job with the storytelling. But so kind of on that, like when you think about like checking in and stuff, how do you feel like people come together in our community during like difficult times?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't see it personally when it comes to like just the checking in. I do wholeheartedly appreciate them creating a group chat during the pandemic. That was something new to me, and pandemic was 6 years ago, so just to see how many members have joined in the group chat, like that shows that the community is growing for sure. That does show that they do value our input or our say so and make sure that we are in the know, because how can you better a community without actually letting them know what is going on? Once you build that connection and that trust with your community, it's easier to have an overall satisfactory attitude from the community itself. So I do really appreciate the group chat, and I do believe that is a form of support, I guess, because if someone had a baby, or someone lost their brother or their sister, or someone is going through financial difficulty, or just any type of celebration or loss, that is announced in the group chat, and that way you can reach out and give the proper salutations or condolences. So in that way, I do believe that's some sort of support. So I definitely do appreciate that.
Okay. And what are some examples of generosity or togetherness you've witnessed in Brightmoor?
Some acts of generosity, personally, I would say I can remember them just like doing weekend food giveaways. I remember that. Haven't seen it recently, but I do see in other ways where they do give back, or like even on Eid, how they call the whole community to come, grab meat. Meat is very expensive in this economy, especially. So for them to still continue that tradition, and I know it's been well over 5 years. So even that, or then sometimes I'll hear like the announcements in the group chat where, hey, we got boxes, come grab them. And those boxes contain oil, sugar, rice, cereal, like the basic necessities. So even if a family is struggling with high grocery prices, you're at least given the basic necessities. And it's not like something that's not able to sustain a family of at least 5. So I do see those acts of generosity for sure. And those boxes, they come continuously. Sometimes I ask my mom, like, can I get a box? Like, so yeah, I do appreciate that they do that.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some traditions from back home that you or your family still practice here in Detroit?
Traditions from back home? I would mainly say like Eid. Mainly just going to the masjid, coming back home with the family, just enjoying that Eid breakfast together for sure. Now, if we want to do something in the afternoon, we're totally fine to do that. But for sure, right after the prayer, they do want us to come home, eat, talk, call our relatives from back home, because, we have cousins in like Paris, Italy, Africa. So that's one tradition for sure. And honestly, back home tradition in this house is not out of the norm, because my dad is very old school. So just in general, like he just has an old school way of things in general. So.
And how do you feel like you actively choose to stay connected to your culture, language, or traditions while living in Detroit?
For one, not speaking English to my aunts and uncles. Back in the day, I feel like it was more so out of necessity that we didn't speak English to them, because they were also learning English. But I'm in my 30s now. It's been 30 years. They've been in America for 30 plus years. Everyone speaks English fluently, but just the fact that we still choose to speak our native tongue to them. We also just, like practice eating our cultural foods. Also with just the togetherness of coming to the masjid all the time, or going to weddings and parties and wearing our traditional clothing. Those are all things that I feel like we're preserving our culture that way for sure in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. And I know recently you took a trip back to Ivory Coast, and you were able to see a lot of, obviously they've been modernized compared to like when your dad came, but you were able to like live there for a little bit and kind of see the traditions and the way that they live. Mm-hmm. How do you feel like some of those traditions have changed or adapted for you and your family or community in Detroit? Like how y'all took some of that and you kind of see it here, or you'd be like, oh, I see where that came from, and from seeing it in Africa.
Interesting. I don't know. Like, I feel like, especially where we're from in Ivory Coast, honestly, it's not the most modern, because we do come from Grand Bassam, so that's more so like not city side. I wouldn't say village either, but it's more so like on the reserve side. Like if we were to compare it to Detroit, like Detroit, we would say that's the city, and then Bassam is more so like calm. So we would say like Southfield or Roseville, like like really calm. No too much of like city activity, I guess. So in Bassam, honestly, it is pretty old school still, to be honest. But to see that culture here in the U.S., honestly, just the togetherness of being with your family, value actually visiting your family or taking, dishes to people, like sometimes, like say someone is sick or, like we said, like, giving birth or something like that. Just to, oh, hey, this person gave birth. We're all going to come together and we're going to go visit that person. I personally thought that was a here thing, or, just giving them money because they gave birth. Like, how can you support this person because they gave birth? And I also, kind of saw that back home where, just, okay, this person gave birth. We're all going to collectively come together. We're going to find, the time to actually go visit them and, make sure that they're comfortable and just stepping in and being that village that person needs at that time.
I know you also celebrated Eid there. So what are some community celebrations or cultural gatherings that you feel like are the most meaningful for you since you were able to kind of experience back home and here?
I wouldn't say like the Eid was different in a sense. Like they did make it seem like, Tabaski was like, oh, it's so grand. But for me personally, it felt like Eid. It felt like how I would celebrate Eid here. Waking up, getting ready together with your family, going to the masjid with your family, coming back, just greeting everyone. Everyone's there, and like the whole tradition, of course, like you could be doing anything else after the prayer, however, still come home and have that breakfast. So, just even having that breakfast with everyone, and then just going from, my family of like 9 of us to like, it's like at least 50 people in the house over there. So it's just like interesting to see that. And then, just be around everyone. And then like our family members that were like in proximity just coming to the house and saying hi. And then us also later on in the evening going to visit them too, because like with us, both of our grandparents are like walking distance from each other. So in the morning, my grandma came to my dad's house, and then later on, we ended up going to my grandma's house and then, celebrating the rest of Eid with her. So just here too, I feel like we do the same thing. Sometimes, we'll, stop by such and such house. Oh, let's go, eat breakfast with them and then go home. Or let's go, stop by a couple people's houses before we head home. So, yeah.
Okay, so I know like you mentioned that's kind of the morning. So do you have any like festivities or key memories that you like participated in when you were younger on Eid? Like things that are specific to like Detroit. Like if somebody was like born and raised in Detroit on Eid, they probably like could experience this, or we did this, or this is something we always look forward to.
Back in the day, I just remember it would be a long Ramadan of us going to the masjid at night, and then one morning it's just like, okay, no more fasting. You're going to the masjid. Like, I don't know. I didn't understand the gist of Eid, so I was probably like 8 or 9. So it's just like, I just know one day in this Ramadan, we're going to go to the masjid and we're just going to get a bunch of ones from everyone. We don't know why after the prayer they're passing out ones, but we want it, So like just remembering that, and then knowing like, okay, somewhere down the line, we're going to have a community barbecue where we get to see everyone. So that was also something nice. And then I know like our moms back in the day, they would actually have an Eid party for us. So that was also really cool. But I do feel like that was, back in the days where like, it was easier to just, organize a party. Now I feel like, Islam is a lot more stricter in the community too, so where it's like, okay, you don't need that grand celebration. I do feel like the barbecue is sufficient enough. So I do value the community barbecues, because it's not just welcome to those who just fast. It's everyone in the community. Anyone that's African or even African American or in a neighboring neighborhood can come and enjoy with everyone. So I just always look forward to that, because even if you didn't see these people during Ramadan, or you didn't see them Eid day because they probably went to a different masjid, you will most likely see it on the day of the barbecue for sure.
And how do you plan to share or pass on those traditions to younger generations? And why do you think that's important to do?
I just feel like the younger generation didn't have it like us. Like, we had it good. I'm not gonna lie, we had it really good. So it's just like I do pray and hope like the future of the community is, very bright, and them just having all these projects and ideas. I think it is very helpful and it is beneficial, and I think it will be of benefit for the younger generation to actually still understand what that sense of community is, because again, just being in a community, I'm 30, I've been in a community 20 plus years, so just to see like the transformation of how things went, it is something that I do hope that the younger generation, continue to experience, and then for years to come, because I love our community, and I feel like there's no community like ours to begin with, because we're so unique, and everyone comes from different walks of life, different backgrounds, but then again we all come together as one and see each other as one.
Mm. And earlier you kind of touched on your dad and like how it was important for him to pass on traditions to you. Like, so what are some things you are like actively choosing to like pass on to your children, or whether that's celebrations, language, food? Like, what are some things you feel like are important to pass down to your children?
I feel like exposure to the culture, language, of course. I personally do speak English to my dad, but you're gonna speak English to you blue in the face. My dad will still speak the native language to you, so it's just like even the choosing to still speak back in the language so you don't forget the language. Just making sure that you're exposed to travel and actually knowing your family, because I had a friend tell me one day, like, you just love your family so much. 1, 2, 3, you're in Detroit, and it's like that's what I was raised on. I feel like my dad is like a really big family man. Like, everything is family. Like, he would literally die for his family, literally. So it's like, for me personally, just wanting to grow up and be in my dad's footsteps, I seen it. I seen his hard work, his dedication, his just catering nature, and then just always thinking about his family, and then just dropping something at the drop of a dime, like if something was to happen to his family. And again, my friend touched upon it, like, what? Like, you just like gonna get up and go like that? Yeah, my family needs me. Like, that's how important it is for me. So I just feel like making sure family is like a key foundation or deeply embedded in their brains. Like, no matter what, family will always be there for you. So, you do need to hold strong and, tight to your family for sure. So, yeah.
Okay, so this next part is kind of about community change and legacy. So you mentioned that the Islamic Community of As-Salaam, they purchased that building in like 2008, 2009. How have you noticed the Brightmoor community change since you first arrived or started to attend the mosque in Brightmoor?
A lot of changes have happened. Could they be more grand? Maybe. But only time will tell, and obviously it's what is within their capacity too. So sometimes I'm thinking to myself, hey, like, we should be here, but we don't know what the capacity is for them right now and how hard it is, because I could just say it, but I don't know the struggles or the difficulties that they do face or challenges that they face when trying to, expand or, make the vision come to life. So can't really expound too much on that. But as far as like changes, just us being in that building, like, I remember the building was like not even green and white. It was red. There was no carpet. Like, we made it work, but even like the women's side, there was no women's side. So just like those little things, and just purchasing the lot next door, purchasing the building that, now is the Quran school, or, the community center for them, like all those things, and just, watching them, go through those trials and tribulations, and, slowly but surely purchasing that entire space. So that definitely changed over time. And then just constant changes that they do make within the building itself. For me, my major thing that I would like to see for sure is the expansion of the building. But as far as like the changes within the building, there have been quite a few changes, and sometimes I could go, a couple months without being in Detroit and come back, and it's like, wait, what? Where did you guys get that? So definitely a lot of changes have occurred within, that space.
And what is your favorite memory of the Brightmoor neighborhood or like the Brightmoor community? If you have one.
A lot, actually. A lot for sure. But it's like just, of course, the Saturday, Sunday schools. Just knowing that, hey, I had a long week at school. I can't wait to see my people. Like, even if it's for like 3 or 4 hours, just being around them and, just break time, catching up, catching each other up on life and figuring out things, what we were going to do when we get off from, the weekend school. So just those memories in itself. And then anytime they do have a community gathering, again, just to see how many people do come and, just be within a community. It's always good to see people that you haven't seen in, quite a few years.
And what are your future hopes for this community?
Well, my first hope again is to expand that building. But above all, just to see it continuously grow, because over the last 10 years, I've just seen how many families have moved to Detroit, or, within that community, or have been in that community. And I was just telling a friend, like, hey, every time I come back for Ramadan, I swear I see another new family here, at least 2 or 3 families. So just to continuously see people growing and just coming to the community and actually feeling welcomed in the community, because it's not hard to, it is kind of hard sometimes to feel a sense of belonging within a community that's been established for, well over 10, 15, 20 years, because for me personally, when I had moved to Philly, I didn't see that. Like, I personally was to myself, and I was like, I don't know. I was literally telling my sister, like, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, too, like, yeah, I don't know. In Philly, I was very, like, in my shell. But here in our community, I feel like if I was an outsider coming into this community, they would have definitely made me feel welcome, because I see that, and I just see the relationships with people, like, hey, how are you guys, like, so close? But it's also, just that welcoming people and just getting to know them and not judging them and making them actually feel welcome within the community.
I love that. And then what do you want future generations to remember or understand about the mosque, but also the people who built it and, made it a priority to establish this community?
Future generations, I really pray that they understand, like, how this community even came about, like the hard work, the sacrifice, the dedication, the blood, sweat, tears, like the endless days of rest and just countless nights of just trying to figure out how can we make this community what it is today. So I just feel like I don't want that history to vanish. I don't want, all their hard work to go in vain. We're getting older, people are, passing away, unfortunately. Our parents are, getting older as well. We don't know who's going to go before who, but, just to know that, hey, these people worked so hard, and we don't want it to just, go in vain when the community, God forbid, does diminish, or, people are older and, start to pass away. So I just want that to be like a legacy. And that's what I was like letting my sister know, like, hey, I don't know how and when I'm going to make this come about, but I feel like we need to definitely come up with like a legacy tribute for those who were pioneers and people who were like founding fathers of this community, because this community has a very unique story, and to just be a part of it or to witness it, like, I'm so thankful to see, like, hey, this is something that actually does work, and I saw it with my own 2 eyes. So it's like, it's so cool. And it's just like, sometimes, like, even thinking about it, it's just like, wow, like, it gives me chills sometimes. Like, you guys literally came from an apartment building to what we have today, and like, alhamdulillah, like, we went from like 20 families to like almost 60, 70 families, and we're like 300 plus in this community. So I really pray and hope that the community does preserve its culture for sure.
Okay. And then lastly, who else do you think we should speak to, or whose story or experiences connected to yours? It's like people in your community that you feel like, oh, you got to talk to them. You need to talk to them and get their story.
I mean, I don't know if you already interviewed them, but of course the Nubians, like, this wouldn't be like what it is without them. And then it just, we sometimes talk about it too, just like, hey, like this community, like this is crazy. So I know if anybody understands this community story the way I understand it, it's for sure them. Have you spoke to the president? Ibrahim Ba? Okay, yeah, he's definitely somebody. Another founding father that you probably may not remember because he's no longer like within his community physically, but in the community. I would say Tonto Kante and then Tonto Enza.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ami, for sitting here with me today to talk about your community. I definitely saw the passion and care you have with your community through like the way you talked about it. So yeah, we just want to say thank you for sitting with us today.
You're welcome.